We are joined by the Honourable Member of Parliament for Sekondi, Honourable Andrew Mercer. Good morning. Welcome to the Breakfast Daily.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Always good to have you. We've also been joined by Felix, Kwakye Ofosu. He's a former Deputy Minister for Communications. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Good. So we'll start with our first story. Of course, the president is speaking a lot on the economy, and I'm reading from the New Crusading Guide. He says, economy being revived despite inherited challenges. President of the Republic, Nana Addo, says his government is reviving the Ghanaian economy despite the difficult circumstances it inherited from the previous administration. I'm going to quote him. He says, indeed, the Ghanaian economy, whose growth rate stood at 3.6% in 2016, the lowest in 2 decades, grew by 8.5% in 2017, and is expected to grow in 2018 by 8.3%, which, according to the IMF, would make it one of the fastest growing economies in the world this year. The relative success of the implementation of our business-friendly policies and the availability of affordable and reliable power has ensured industry, whose growth rate stood at a negative 0.5% in 2016, grew by 17.7% in 2017, the highest sectoral growth in the economy. So according to the president, we are on track to heal ourselves from our hardship.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, amongst other things, he said that, or he told an international forum in London, or the international forum, as she just mentioned, that the energy crisis that hit the nation some years ago, or some years back, was over, and that his government, over the last 21 months, has ensured the stability and adequate supply of power. So this is something that has also, this statement has also come under quite a lot of criticism. We'll start with you, Honourable Mercer.
Well, good morning to my very good friend Felix, and of course our cherished viewers this morning. The president said it all. I mean, we all live in this country. We know the economic challenges that we're facing. Indeed, the previous government itself admitted severally of the challenges that we're facing. Clearly, their inability to manage it led them to go to the IMF to seek support in managing the economy. Fact. And when His Excellency's government took over, we've all seen the figures. Clearly, the signs are bright. The future for Ghana is good. Economic indicators have started improving. When the Vice President mentioned that when your economic fundamentals are weak, your exchange rate will expose you, they are using that statement because of the strengthening of the dollar to say that the economic fundamentals are weak. But they don't get it. At the time, they were making significant investment into the economy, according to them. And clearly, when you make investment into the economy, your GDP ought to grow. In their case, GDP was rather on the decline. So what was the issue? In this case, under this government's management, our GDP is growing. The investments that we are making into the economy is yielding results positively. Our budget deficit is declining from a 9.5% that we inherited. It dropped to 5.9, and it's projected to drop to 4.5 by the end of the year. Our budget deficit improving, debt to GDP ratio declining, took us to debt distress position. So all the figures, but of course, conveniently now the figures don't matter because we don't eat figures like they would tell us. But it's useful for purposes of measuring the performance of an economy. Because without that data, what's the point? If we can't measure what it is that we are doing, then let's not use those figures at all. Let no government use it. But every government consistently, because they serve a useful purpose. I agree. People have issues. And it's not like those issues just came about. We as a country, we know our problems. The poverty levels in my constituency, huge. And it's important that every government works at reducing those difficulties that people have. And so the introduction of social policies that clearly, has positive impact on the lives of people. Reduction in electricity tariffs, clearly. The school feeding that government has done, from President Kufuor's era, continued by them, the capitation and all those things that we pay, is directed at, cushioning the very people that we are all committing ourselves to work for. But, of course, the politicking is exciting. And so that's what we dwell on. There are challenges, no doubt. This country is not out of the woods yet. Of course, the dollar in the past couple of months, we all are not happy about it.
So Honorable, how does all these successful things the president said, how do they actually transition into the realities of the people in your constituency, for example? Because we hear that things are going well, on the macro level, things are improving. But then when you talk to the average Joe outside, they still have not felt that yet.
Some of these things take time to actually, transcend
down.
And for people to really feel the impact. I mean, I'm expectant that all the policies that government is doing, and it all boils down to jobs, whilst we're waiting in your waiting room, I heard your comments on jobs. And it's true. We have a problem with jobs. And one district, one factory is directed, clearly intended at resolving that kind of crisis. I'm expectant that as we increasingly roll them out, as we engage the private sector, get financing support for them to set up their factories across the country, that clearly will impact the job situation.
But if people are not being paid,
those who have already been engaged.
People who have already been engaged are not.
Yes, some of these things,
people who support the party
are clearly
complaining.
Can be better managed.
Okay.
I agree. I get calls from my constituents who were engaged on the afforestation program that they've not been paid. They've paid them some allowances before. It's not like since they were engaged, they haven't been paid at all. But
in the first month, they were paid.
Yeah, but for the past 4 or 5 months, they've not been paid.
At least it's better that government owes you than being at home and not expecting.
Oh, you rather work for free than
no, that's
stay
not what
at
I
home?
said, because these are accrued and necessarily they will be paid. I'm saying that situation, even though not the best, is better than being at home and not expecting any income to come in at all. Because if those opportunities had not been created, wouldn't be having a job.
Day for the past 4 months and no one is
I said
paying
that
you.
it should be better managed. That is a concession that I'm prepared to make. And I will encourage the people who are responsible for management of these programs to, work at procuring the funds from the Ministry of Finance if that is where the delay is coming from. Because these are things that have already been provided for in the budget. And I expect that they should work to get the funding through to them to enable them pay our brothers and sisters who are working and expect to earn whatever it is that is due them, to enable them meet their day-to-day expenditure.
Thank you.
And you see, on the power bit, yes, my friends in the NDC...
No, let's focus on the progress you've made as a party. Let's not even compare
of
what
course,
your
the
friends will
president,
say.
in his statement, also mentioned the stabilization of the power situation and all that. And so it's important that we talk about it, Yes, I hear them say that His Excellency the President has not added even 1 megawatt. It's true. Why should he? Because as we speak, the power contracts that they signed, has taken this country's capacity to levels where we use only 28% of our installed capacity. So it goes back to tell you, when Vice President Baumia at the time was saying that our problem is not generation capacity, it is finance. Consistently, they denied it and went ahead to sign power purchase agreements for power that we do not need, that is costing this country in excess of $600 million per year for power we don't need. But And of course, in spite of all that, we still were facing doomsday until the wee hours of their leaving power. Subsequently, when this government took over, that situation is a thing of the past. Such that the president has even gone ahead through PURC to reduce tariffs that people are clearly benefiting. So if he's inviting investors to come in because the power situation, as was known during their era, is no more, the president is right.
Okay, thank you very much. Felix.
Well, thank you very much. You know, I'm not too sure which is more worrying and depressing on the part of this government. Their horrendously poor performance or their total lack of candor. Quite frankly, I'm amazed. I don't know which one to choose as their worst part. To begin with, this whole hoopla and talk about an improvement in economic condition must be premised on real facts. So they say the devil is in the detail. So when you make claims, you must back it with facts. To begin with, the indices that they boast of, and let me express surprise that suddenly President Akufo-Addo and his vice president believe in the use of economic indices to show economic performance. Indeed, I would urge you to check CTFM Online. It was your sister organization, CTFM Online, that published a report on the 21st of August, 2014, when Dr. Bawumia rubbished statistics put forward by the Bank of Ghana and the Statistical Service concerning the macroeconomic situation. He said that they did not reflect the reality on the ground. Dr. Bawumia cannot argue today that we should accept his version or his rendition of macroeconomic indices as an indication of performance. It did not end there. President Akufo-Addo himself, again on 3rd October 2016, rubbished a Moody's upgrade of our ratings and said that it was inaccurate to the extent that he perceived it not to be consistent with the reality on the ground because people were going through hardships. How, therefore, does he go to the Financial Times Summit in London and expects us to accept hook, line, and sinker his rendition of events that macroeconomic indicators have suddenly become a basis upon which you highlight your performance? So there's inconsistency there. Their lack of candor completely renders their talk devoid of any moral value. The truth of the matter is that since time immemorial, we have always used macroeconomic indicators performance. The truth of the matter is that since time immemorial, we have always used macroeconomic indicators performance or the performance of the economy. But political convenience ensured that they would not accept any kind of rendition to the extent that it showed that we were making progress in the past. They therefore cannot be taken seriously when they highlight same, unless they repudiate the position they took in the past. I am not going to take them seriously when they tout macroeconomic indicators. Now let us even examine the details of those indicators and question what contribution they have made to bringing us thus far. And that's why I said the devil is in the detail. As far back as June 2016, it had been projected by the likes of Moody's, Fitch, the IMF, the World Bank, and other international financial organizations that because of the coming on stream of additional oil resources, we were going to witness a jump in our GDP to between 8 and 9%. In fact, on the 2nd of November 2016, when President Mahama was commissioning the Accra Data Center, in his speech, he noted that we were going to grow at that rate because we had more oil from the 10 fields and the Sankofa fields. In the whole of 2016, we produced, on the average, 60,000 barrels of oil a day. As we speak, we are producing close to 150,000 barrels of oil a day because there was a fault in the turret bearing of the FPSO. So it limited our capacity to produce oil in 2016. Now, that problem was fixed just before we left power. And in addition to that, they have oil from 10 and the Sankofa fields. So it has ramped up. No, please. The turret has not been fixed.
Please allow him. He didn't interfere when you were speaking.
Until this.
Let me make my point.
Yes, let him
make the Ghana Statistical Service itself, the institution upon whose data they are relying to make this claim, highlights that in their reports. If you check the budget statement that the Minister of Finance presented, the appendices, and the Ghana Statistical Service own bulletin, they indicate that oil production went up by 80.6% in 2017. President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia had absolutely nothing to do with that. All the investments into that sector were made by President Mahama. So oil production grew 80.6%. Now, if you look at what we call industry, it is made up of 4 subcomponents. There's manufacturing. There's what they call mining and quarry, which also includes all the mining that we do and oil and gas production. There's construction. And then there's another subsector. But for the purpose of this argument, we need to focus on industry and manufacturing.
Okay.
President Akufo-Addo goes about saying that the industrial sector has grown 17% from negative 0.5%.
Negative 0.5
Again,
to
what he neglects,
17.7%.
rather dishonestly, to tell us is that all that growth is accounted for by oil production. The 80.6% increase in oil production led to a 46% increase in mining and quarry, or 46% growth in mining and quarry. And that is what led to the 17% growth in industry. They weight it. And this facts that I'm giving you, or these facts, you can verify with the Ghana Statistical Service. Their own bulletin highlights it. It's in the budget statement that they presented. So they have done absolutely nothing.
What about manufacturing?
Manufacturing is actually going down. Okay? In the past, the services sector used to lead. It's also going down. Construction has gone down. So all those things that we actually do in this country, that we have total control over, are not performing well. The one that is doing well is oil and gas, in which we have very limited stake and interest.
So in a nutshell, you feel all their success is due to the oil and gas,
and that has reflected,
or the increase in oil production.
That has reflected in the GDP figures. If they do what they call a disaggregation, oil sector growth, or oil growth and non-oil growth. The non-oil growth is what they call the real sector. That is manufacturing, agri, and all the other sectors that make up that component. But if you do a disaggregation, almost 4% of that 8.3%, and then there is 8.1% now after rebasing, it's accounted for by oil. If you take it out, they'll grow barely 5%.
Okay, but you do agree that we are a net exporter of electricity?
I'll address that presently.
Okay.
Again, the statistics that they boast of, they pale into insignificance when you set it against what we've done in the past. First of all, these figures are not static. They move over time. The highest ever growth rate we've had in our history was 14.4%. It made us the country with the second highest growth rate in the world in 2011 after Qatar. That grew by 17%. So it was 14.4% under an NDC government. At the time, President Mahama was the head of the economic management team. They speak these days about inflation. Inflation is what they call a lagging indicator. In other words, the factors that cause it happen well in advance of its recording. So if you check the budget statement of 2017, the Minister of Finance himself acknowledged that inflation was on a downward trajectory from 19% in January 2016 to 15% in December 2016. But the point that I wanted to make was that between 2010 and 2012, inflation was held below single digit or below 10% for 33 months continuous. They have had single digit for barely 3 months. There was a time that it went back into double digits. In fact, it is threatening to go back because at the last reckoning, inflation was at 9.9%, up from 9.3%. If you look at the exchange rate, there has been a time when the exchange rate has depreciated just 1.4% under an NDC government. So all those indices are nothing new. It is nothing spectacular. It is not accounted for by organic growth. That means growth of the non-oil sector. It is oil that they know absolutely nothing about that is accounting for it. In addition to that, are excruciating hardships that have emerged directly from government policy. The Association of Ghana Industries, they have indicated clearly that their production cost, the production cost of their members have gone up 5% because of the increase in VAT. That is, they hived off Get Fund and NHIS levies as a direct tax, or sorry, sales tax instead of ad valorem tax. So it has led to a 5% increase in production costs. That is why all the industries in Ghana have increased the price of their products. Beer prices have gone up, Guinness prices have gone up, even yogurt in its own Sekondi
But that could be due to the GRA.
No, it's not. It is.
You know the price of yogurt has gone up?
Yes, in his own Sekondi Takrade. He can find out. Only last week there was a demonstration by the vendors.
Yeah, for the 1%.
Absolutely.
The 1%.
Absolutely. That's an increase. And for them, it's a significant increase. For low-income earners, that is very significant. But you do agree that the electricity bit, it's helped with production. I will address that.
Okay.
I'm talking about the consequence of their policies on the people of Ghana.
Yeah.
Today, when people complain of hardship, it emanates directly from what they have done. The increases in fuel prices because of mismanagement of the exchange rate. And he runs away from the vice president's maxim that if the fundamentals of the economy are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. They cannot approbate and reprobate. It is illogical to tell me in the past that if the exchange rate depreciates, it is a signal of poor economic management. and then come into power and tell me that the exchange rate is depreciating, but it's a signal of strong economic fundamentals. It doesn't make sense. They have absolute control on the management of the exchange rate. They failed, and it has declined, and it has led to increases in fuel price, which has affected everything. The taxes that they've imposed have led to increases. The increases in import duty. Now the importers are saying that they pay 3 times what they used to pay under the NDC. And when that happens, you and I bear the brunt because they will increase their products. So that stems directly, the hardships we are facing stem directly from their poor economic management. Now let's talk about power.
Okay, so after the break, we have to take a quick break, then we'll hear your power because I want to hear your thoughts on that. And then, of course, Council will respond. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Let us know your thoughts with the hashtag Breakfast Daily on the WhatsApp line.
055-0585-832.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
City TV is live. City TV is a free-to-air digital channel. On a digital TV, please press menu on your remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like GoTV and StarTimes box. Tune into City TV and experience your world. City TV, it's your world. Tune in to The Point of View, Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. as Bernard Avlet takes the news further. He will bring the right guest, ask them the relevant questions, and get you the real insights you need on the big stories for the day.
I said, property tax, I will pay. If you come to my house, I'll cut you a check. But when did I do my presentation? February.
Yes.
Or February, yes, sometime. Nobody has come to my house.
Really?
Ghana is broke. And, that's the reality we must all come to live with.
The Point of View with Bernard Avlet. Monday and Wednesday nights, only on City TV.
Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Before the break, we were discussing the president saying that the economy is being revived despite inherited challenges. Felix, you were making your closing remarks on the
they have stabilized
Ghana now
power.
being a net exporter of electricity.
You see, again, I decried their lack of candor. President Akufo-Addo has done absolutely nothing about our current power position. Doing so, or power outages, as an official measure of government, ended on 24 December 2015. There's a public statement by the Load Shedding Management Committee, which was chaired by Engineer Mona, who was head of Gridco at the time. What had happened is that there were significant shortfalls in power generation, and that claim by Dr. Baumia that it was not a generation problem, but a money problem. It's a flat-out falsehood. It is ridiculous, to say the least. And I am throwing a challenge to him. Let him order the switch off of both their Mary and Car power plants and see whether we don't go back into doing so. It is those two plants that mitigated the problem. When we came into power in 2009, our total installed capacity was 1,939 megawatts. By the time we were leaving, January 2017, we had put in place plans that took it up to 4,390 megawatts. In other words, we added, in fact, let me also add that President Kufuor started the Bui power down. So when you add it to the 1,900, that comes to about 2,300. So full credit to him. But President Mahama added 2,000. And if you give me time, I can list the specific plans.
It's fine.
In
addition to that, to resolve the financial challenges that the state-owned agencies were facing, we introduced ESLA the Energy Sector Levy Act. He is in Parliament, so the records will show that they opposed it.
Felix, I'm sure there are a lot of things you'd want to say.
Absolutely, but this is all. This will stop this bit. This will stop this bit about they stabilized nothing.
Really quick.
We did all the work.
Really quick, and then we move on to our next story.
Briefly.
I agree that you deserve some credit.
Not some credit, full credit.
Whatever.
Full.
You can take whatever. But you see, when you call others names that they lack candor, when you yourself are guilty of that same allegation, what does that make you? You recall this whole oil discovery business that was engineered by President Kufuor. What did they say in Parliament? That was Ajungo. You recall? Yet, due to the focused attention of President Kufuor redirecting GNPC to focus on its core mandate, we discovered oil in commercial quantities. Subsequently, you came and did some work to improve it. I agree. Yet, you say that Mr. Mahama is the one who discovered oil for this country.
No, he didn't say that. Let's focus on what he did say. He's saying that
the statement that he's making. Go back and give credit to the MPP for discovering oil in commercial quantities for this country. That has contributed to the GDP growth that we are experiencing today. Now, you say that fuel prices is as a result of increase in exchange rate.
No, let's get back to the oil bit. The president is saying that we're doing well because our GDP, our economy is doing better. He said that growth rate, the industry growth rate, which stood at negative 0.5 in 2016, grew by 17.7% in 2017, the highest growth in the sectoral economy, right? So highest sectoral growth in the economy. What Felix is saying is this growth is largely due to oil, which is just a raw material that we have. So it's not really an organic growth that we've experienced as a country. What's your response to that?
Is it a suggestion that between 2009, when we discovered oil in commercial quantities and started production sometime in 2010, 2011. Oil did not contribute even 1% to our GDP. And that's all the industrial growth at negative 0.5% in 2016 was oil part of that contribution.
No, because it went down significantly. I showed the figures.
He explained that there was a technical issue.
There was a technical problem.
I'm saying that the current remediation has not been done. As we speak.
It's been resolved. We are producing far more oil today than we did.
Because there are other fields that have come on stream.
So that's the point
I'm saying that at the time, in 2016, we did produce oil in this country.
But
and it didn't make any contribution to that.
Thank you very much. I want us to move on to another story here, which is really important. Reading from citynewsroom.com says Delta Force emboldened by lenient punishment in Kumasi court attack. This is coming from the NCC boss, Josephine Nkrumah. Of course, she has suggested that the punishment handed to members of the pro-NPP group Delta Force following the attack on the Ashanti Regional Security Coordinator in 2017 and the subsequent storming of the court to free their colleagues was not severe enough to deter other persons from perpetrating similar attacks. So she generally criticizes vigilantism in political parties especially. I'll start with you, Felix.
And for the record, non-oil growth in 2011 was 7%.
Okay.
That when we grew at 14, half of it was non-oil, 7%. Okay. Higher than their non-oil growth now. Okay. Now let me come to vigilantism.
So we all agree that the economy is being revived by oil, not organic growth.
That's what it is. We
agree.
We are yet to see for his vision.
All credit to him.
Absolutely.
But no credit to President Akufo-Addo. That point must get established.
Thank you.
Yes.
You say, no?
Let me say that there's I get the impression that the NCC is worried about the specter of it's not vigilantism. It is political militancy. Vigilantism is a misnomer. Vigilantes actually help law enforcement agencies to maintain law and order in places where there are shortfalls. So when you call them vigilantes, you are doing them far more good than they deserve. And you are doing those who engage in active community assistance in terms of security a lot of the service. So they are political militants. Again, whilst I am encouraged by the NCC's apparent interest in tackling this matter, let me say that I disagree with the commissioner's prognosis that it is the lenient sentence that the court gave the Delta forces that is emboldening them. What is emboldening them, to speak bluntly, is tacit governmental party support. That is what is emboldening them. Indeed, if you go back into that court matter, the attack on the circuit court, and the reason why they got that lenient sentence, it was because the state or government that had the power to prosecute them decided to go for charges that would get them off the hook in that manner. The court was left with no option than to pass the sentence they passed because of the charges that were brought. You recall that when they attacked the Ashanti Regional Security Coordinator, and they were taken to court, they were charged with a much more serious offense. The charges were dropped, and subsequently other charges were preferred. When they were standing trial, another group of Delta Force thugs stormed the court and engaged in the most sacrilegious desecration of the altar of justice in our history. You would expect that the police service will do everything in their power to apprehend those culprits and ensure that they face the stiffest sanctions. I actually expected that the judiciary would take interest in the matter and use the same standard they used to measure the Muntie 3. In the Muntie 3 case, they held owners of the radio station who did not have any control over what panelists were going to. As we sit here, Samens, your boss, does not control what I will say. What I say cannot be attributed to him. But in the Muntie 3 case, they held the owners of Radio Gold responsible, including a 75-year-old man who works with a stick, who was unwell at the time that the matter happened. These thugs, these militants, have been publicly owned by the General Secretary of the MPP, Mr. John Boedu. On 21st April 2017, he described them as an integral part of the MPP machinery. So we do know that they belong to a group, the New Patriotic Party, that has principles. I expected the court to hold those principles accountable for the actions of these militants in the same way that they held the owners of Radio Gold responsible. But they let them off the hook. And I have today not been able to reconcile myself with that disparity, that duplicity in the way that we handle these matters. In addition to this is the fact that a political party finds it necessary to form these groups of bandits who have consistently engaged in violence. And when you question them, they say that, oh, these are people who have been put together to ensure internal security. And they did so when they were in the opposition under the claim that they did not have confidence in the police. Since these groups have been formed, they have become a source of insecurity rather than providing security. Between 2014 and 2016, at least, I can recount for you about 11 violent clashes at the headquarters of the MPP and elsewhere within their party. And all these should have told the leadership of that party that what they were doing was untenable and that it was compromising the security of the state. On the very first day that President Akufo-Addo reported for work, 9th January 2017, these groups, in one of them, Invincible Forces, attacked a serving police officer. That incident was captured on CCTV. So there's evidence, there's footage. You can see clearly who is staging the attack. As I speak to you, absolutely nothing has been done to that gentleman, despite the fact that he can be identified. The security coordinator of Ashanti, who was attacked, was so badly manhandled that he could have sustained serious injuries. And it was an affront to the authority of the state for thugs belonging to a party to storm an office and throw out an appointee of the president. It was a direct challenge to the authority of the president, and I would have expected him to act swiftly to clamp down on such activity. He refused to do it. He went promising the Otumfo that it will not happen again, only for 7 days to pass for us to record that incident in the court. And if you put all of this together, it paints a picture of a party that is tolerant of violence, of a president who believes that there's something to be derived from the violence of these people, so he won't act.
Okay,
I do not buy...
extreme.
No, it's not. Listen to me carefully. The office of the president
Should be wrapping up.
should be the most secure place in this country. At the very least, even if you disagree with the president, you must respect the premise. So you cannot go there and misbehave. He is an MP. He will not get easy access to the presidency if he went. He will go through regular security checks. What it means is that these thugs were familiar with the environment. They will engage in such action. The government takes no action beyond lofty rhetoric. And this continues. And today, a minister of state, Dr. Akoto, has been attacked in a meeting. And we are here lamenting. You and I, do you believe that if President Akufo-Addo wanted to stamp out this canker, he will not achieve it overnight?
Thank you very much, Felix. I think those are very interesting points. Counsel?
You see, I condemn unreservedly the actions of these groupings who have been encouraged to even have a role in our political discourse. Without a doubt, for any country that really believes in the rule of law, such lawlessness cannot be countenanced at all. And so, to that extent, I share in part the sentiments that have been expressed by Felix, and would encourage the police to deal with these people when they are found at the wrong side of the law, without fear or favor. But my worry, and I always say this, that we as the political class should work together and stop the blame game.
Yeah.
Okay? Because political vigilantism, or what name did you use for them?
Militants. Political militants.
It's not new. It's not. There are plethora of events that occurred under your watch.
Yes, that's true. But he's saying that under this particular, we are not seeing much.
It's relativities that we are talking about here. But if we work together and stop making it look as if this thing only reared its neck during the era of the MPP, I have a big problem.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you want to play your politicking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have more members. They have more members.
Imagine huge consequences.
That's
on
fine.
the
Imagine he concedes that they have their Azorka boys, they have their Hawks, and amongst others. Now, what is being, because they are not in power anymore, what is currently being done to stop this vigilantism?
Yeah, but I think even the General Secretary agreed that they will also close their groupings if you guys,
Is that what he said?
I heard him on radio say something that they've created these guys
the ones that because
the
they were in power and
not,
had the power of police protection. Those groupings went into the background a little bit.
What needs do these groups serve? These vigilante militant groups, do we need them?
No, we don't.
So why do we have them?
If the state or any party in power would agree that let's provide security for political parties across board, regardless whether you're in opposition or not, because it is the absence of protection.
But you're in power right now. You have the protection.
I'm looking
Why do you need these guys?
No, but of course, one will say that these boys worked for you when you were in opposition.
So you need them.
So when you come into government, do you dump them? It's
why
an
not?
interesting
If
question
they are destructive, why not?
But that is why you have to punish them. And
so
that's why
what is being done beyond the lip service
to deal ruthlessly with them.
But beyond the lip service of encouraging the police, what is being done?
Why can't you dump them if they are destructive? Why can't you dump them? They are destructive. If they are not constructive, dump them.
Wait, please. I don't want us to do politics.
No, I don't want us to do politics.
It's important that these guys were used by the parties, including the MPP. The NDC is putting them together now with the intention of using them into election 2020. Is it good a route to go as a country?
No.
Clearly not. So let's look at the big picture. Let's have a conversation around this thing and find a way that makes government, not NPP or President Akufo-Addo, the government of Ghana, provide security so that the need for these young men being grouped together to protect parties is done away with. That is the point that I'm making. Okay? Rather than, because if the state does not provide security for the NDC and their presidential candidate and possibly members of parliament in their constituencies and all that, they will get young boys to take care of them. Because you go to a rally and you know our politics. People will tamper with your car tires.
Yeah.
Possibly. You need boys to take care of your car whilst you are doing your house-to-house rounds. It's these boys who will go with you. But if we have state protection, then the need to have these boys around will not be there. And going forward, this is the way that we all ought to agree to go. Otherwise, look, believe me.
You want state protection. Wait, you want state protection as an aspirant, as a member of parliament.
Opposition.
We can
Someone
have
in
a
opposition.
definition
No, even
of
if
who
in
gets
power.
it. I don't have a problem.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is that it is largely the opposition parties
Who
have the
needs
need
these boys.
for these.
So, Felix, if the government will
when you are
provide
in power,
you protection,
the police will be
can
there
you-
to
can you
protect,
dump
provide
the
protection.
You see,
and the
let us
likes?
put the matter in perspective.
No, this is the perspective he's
Don't worry,
created.
there is
We are going
no-
to provide you protection.
No
Can
problem.
we
You see,
dump these
there is
militant groups?
There is no conversation to be had about this matter. The only thing that must be had is firm action on the part of the state to rid our society of this menace the political militancy.
When your party is
why haven't your party done these militants?
Look, when you go to our headquarters, to begin, we don't have militants. That is a matter of fact.
And those guys are not militants.
Have you Avoca boys?
No, let me make the point. Is it no?
Maybe he has an explanation.
Someone has a militant group,
but I'm telling you as a matter of fact.
Both of them serve the same purpose.
We do not have militants in our party. That is it's not something we encourage. What happens is that there are individuals who may belong to the party, who may form one group or the other.
But the same can be said for MPP.
No. There's a difference.
Exact
There's
thing.
a significant. As I speak to you, whereas the MPP takes ownership of these militant groups, and indeed, when they were in opposition, they were clear that they had formed these groups because they did not have confidence in the police.
That's exactly what General Mosquito is saying. That he's trying to protect himself from these guys.
Let me make the point.
Make your point.
General Mosquito has said that because of the conduct of the MPP and the seeming lack of capacity of the police to respond, it will be foolhardy for us to sit down and not take steps to protect our facilities and officials.
By getting militant.
He has defined a very limited role, really, for these boys. You understand the point I'm making? I am saying, and indeed, both in private and in public, I have stated that I do not subscribe to that arrangement. That I don't believe that we need these boys for protection. If you are having an event and you inform the police, when we have demonstrations, there are times when the police outnumber the number of demonstrators. So the police have always responded to the extent that you've put in a request and in reasonable time. If you are going to have a rally and you inform the police, I'm sure they will be able to provide adequate security. Of course, there are always some young men in the party who serve as chaperones just to ensure that people do not act out of order so that chaos does not result. But those roles are extremely limited. And under no circumstance must these boys take up the role of providing security. But these boys that the MPP put up and formed these groups around were recruited for a specific objective, to use violence to pursue a political end.
That can't be true.
According
that
to
can't
you.
be true.
But no,
I'm sorry.
Let me give you an example. Let me give you a typical example.
Unbelievable.
A typical base for what I'm saying. Look, those 11 incidents that I cited, they included one in which there was a clash between the invisible forces and persons loyal to Mr. Kwabena Japan and Paul Afoko. It was an internal struggle. It was not an outside security threat that they were fending off.
Felix, let's use the most recent incident.
The Tafu one. What is their justification? Their justification
is you don't have jobs, amongst others.
One of the justification is that Dr. Akoto say is working against the interests of Nana Akufo-Addo in the Ashanti region. That is one of the justifications I heard them
Felix,
say.
if you listened to counsel, all he said was politicians need protection, and if state agencies can protect them, we will have no need for these.
I am a politician also. When I was in power, I did not have a bodyguard. I didn't have a policeman in my house. I survived. I did not die.
But we do have politicians who
But the point I'm
been
making is
threatened.
that you don't need this sort of arrangement. And that,
so you
that
agree
talk,
with him?
No. You see, that talk seeks to make excuses
for
the actions of these boys.
I have not made
He's
any
not made
excuses.
So what
excuses
you
for
need to
them.
do, I am taking a position that
them
they
wrongly.
need. No,
I
He
support
did
the
not make
point. The
excuses for
police-
them, though.
No, but see, when you say that,
Deal with them
when you say that
ruthlessly.
conditions, you see,
But
I am not
I've
singling you
seen-
out. I'm not
I've
singling you
lived
out.
through
I'm
it.
saying that narrative.
Yes, go ahead. What's wrong with that narrative
that
of
narrative-
saying
that
if there were soldiers and policemen, we won't need these boys?
That narrative says that if I'm a political party and the state has not given me security, we don't even define the parameters of that security that we are calling for, then I must go and have tax to provide that security. Tax,
Party
who should be
supporters.
prepared?
Because when you're
But they are
defining
tax, that's
them
what it
for
is.
NDC,
That
you
is what
say they are party
That is what they
supporters.
are. These boys are
Unbelievable,
tax.
isn't it?
Their actions show it.
Okay.
I'm not defining them in ways that are not complementary, but that is it. But the point is that you can't say that because the state has not given me security, let me go and form basically a private army. That should have capacity to launch attacks on opponents, both internal and external, so that I can have my peace of mind or security. That is what I am against. So,
I don't recall
and in the instance
any
of the
these boys
MPP, look,
attacking
in the instance-
political opponents in the lead up to the 2016 elections.
They
Never
attack
happened.
They attack
Rather,
opponents
in your case,
let's talk
They
about
we
have-
have a history.
Let me make the point.
We need to be
Of
fair to
physical
our
attacks
viewers.
on our
Mercer.
generated
Next
by your
story.
people.
Honorable
Mercer,
Mercer,
we
they
need to-
attacked
Honorable Mercer,
Honorable
let's
Mercer,
go.
they attacked opponents of President Akufo-Addo in the MPP.
Okay.
That is what led to that clash in your head.
So it's an internal
So it's an
issue.
internal arrangement.
Okay.
But you see, in power, they cannot claim that they
Okay.
don't have security.
Okay.
They have
Okay.
all the security at their disposal. So what is the use of these boys? Except
Well, like you rightly said, you can't dump them because you're empowering.
You see,
in the closing remarks, no, I think you've gone back.
The point before he comes in, with a greater respect to you. Look, there's only one solution.
Gentleman, haven't I?
Oh, but I've been a gentleman too.
Please,
The only
please be quick.
solution to this is that the MPP must disavow this group. They must say that henceforth we do not recognize Delta forces, Invisible forces, Bolga Bulldogs, or any
So
number
you
of forces.
turn around and tell them
No.
that they used you and
Thank you
dumped
very much.
But
Thank you.
so you always retain them. Your
Of
general
course,
secretary has
but
said so.
we
So
have
don't
to rein them
complain.
in.
Honorable Mercer,
You have to
Honorable Mercer, really
understand.
quickly.
You have to understand
No.
where the honorable is coming from.
That-
You don't use these boys and then just dump
but
them.
we
They
don't
can
even have to
turn
put
the
them
street.
in that at all.
Yeah.
Honorable Mercer.
We are all. He is a political activist.
Honorable
You
Mercer,
can drive
really
people
quick.
working
Let
for
him
the
make his
Thank you very
point.
much.
Okay, go
Honorable
ahead.
Mercer,
Go ahead.
were
Go ahead.
these boys, were members of the Invisible Forces not sent to South Africa to be trained?
I'm not aware.
In fact,
That
they
was
came
allegation in the
they
media.
actually came here to train them.
Well,
You are
came
not
here to
aware of
train
this information.
that they were taken to South Africa to be trained. No, I'm not aware.
How do
Before
we-
some
how
were
do we-
recruited into national
yeah.
security.
Yes,
You are not aware of
that
this.
is true.
aware.
That is
Okay.
true.
How
Okay.
do we make them constructive? Because right now they are being
to move to
destructive.
the next one.
They are not helping at all.
Yes, they are not, and that's why it's only punishment that can rein some of these
Okay,
excesses.
thank you
beyond
very
that.
much. Now let's look
The
at this
final-
story
distance
from
themselves
citynewsroom.com.
But
Thank you
your
very
part-
much.
that's the final
No,
solution.
thank you very much,
The
honorable members.
final
Now,
story.
Valerie
Sure,
Sawyer
sure,
sues
sure.
AG Yoko over Ghana Gas Audit report. It says here, former board member of Ghana National Gas Company, Valerie Sawyer, has filed processes at the High Court seeking to quash the report of the Cabinet Committee responsible for the coordination of the investigations and the forensic audits. Now, the report, which came out a few weeks ago, showed that the helicopters purchased from China Aero Technology Import and Export Corporation were never used for the purposes for which they were purchased. And helicopters which were also included in the initial contract price were never delivered, among some other things. Some training that should have accompanied this particular facility never happened. So she's seeking a declaration that the audit report, which implicated her as a former board member of the Ghana Gas Company Limited, was done in breach of her right to administrative justice and right to fair hearing, amongst others. I'll start with you really quickly. Felix.
Well, I think that she has exercised her right as a citizen to seek redress in a matter that she feels dissatisfied with. And to that extent, one cannot begrudge her. Indeed, significant issues have been raised over the validity or even the legality, necessity, and even the cost implication of the various so-called audit reports that were published. I know of many, many instances that the basic principle in audit was not adhered to. That is giving the side or the subject of the audit a hearing so that you factor his responses into the final report. That did not happen. In many cases, I have seen letters of protestation. I have personal knowledge of some of the cases. Clearly, it did not meet a certain basic standard. And it leads one to suspect that a certain political motive informed the way that, first of all, the audits were carried out and the way that they were even leaked. Because it came out as a syndicated story among newspapers that are affiliated to the MPP. And so it raises questions about the motive and sincerity and all that. But that's for the legal process that has been entered into. I expect that the outcome will inform the way forward. I expect also that government would comply with the dictates of the rule of law and act in ways that are consistent with our rules. As for accountability, we are all subject to it. And nobody in the NDC will ever run away from accountability.
But even though it may have been started from cabinet used
Again, they don't have the... You see, you are a lawyer, you tell me. I don't see anywhere that cabinet is mandated to spearhead the work of Yoko. Indeed, we have questioned the basis of getting external auditors without recourse to the Auditor General, as Section 11 of the Audit Service Act would dictate. They have retorted that it was Yoko, or Yoko has the power under Act 804 to engage experts. But the law says that it is the board of Yoko that must ask for the services of these experts. We have challenged them to show us proof that, first of all, there was a board resolution by the board of Yoko to do this. And two, whether authorization expressly so came from Yoko. Some of the subjects of the investigation have demanded this. They've requested it as a matter of right.
I have seen the letter from Yoko, for instance, which seems to suggest that they have. It was a letter from, in respect of the same Ghana Gas Company Limited, a letter from Yoko to Morrison and Co. Asking Morrison and
Dated
Co.
October 19.
Well, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. So it will become the subject of litigation, as I indicated.
Okay.
So the facts will be clear. But as far as I know, and as far as the NDC is concerned, no wrongdoing was occasioned in the purchase of the helicopter, which, by the way, has been used multiple times by the president, the vice president, minister. So you wonder how they will use helicopters that were purchased by Ghana Gas and turn around and say that it amounts to financial loss. It's a very bizarre, inexplicable position that they
Thank
take.
you,
Yeah.
Counsel.
Well, to the extent that the matter is in court, I guess that we should all be guided, in the level of comments that we make. But the issue about the NDC raising questions of the legality, propriety, or otherwise of the audit that were commissioned is all red herring. Clearly, without any basis whatsoever. Because the talk of the Auditor General not being aware of these audits having been commissioned clearly does not arise, because it is not the Auditor General who is conducting this exercise. And of course, one would have expected that before they issued their press statement, they would have done some thorough checks to find out who it was that had commissioned these audits. They didn't, and went to town, threw out all sorts of allegations, and as usual, invited you and I to provide proof and debate the distortions that they've created for all of us to debate. Well, now the issues are settling. They've gotten to know after the fact that indeed the investigations were commissioned by Yoko. Now they've changed the goalpost that show us proof of Yoko board resolution that commissioned these audits. Please. Look, Yoko acted on a complaint. And if you look at the letter that you are holding from the Ministry of Energy, based on which these investigations or forensic audits were conducted. And the Yoko Act is clear that they can engage experts, consultants to assist them in carrying out their work. Obviously, Yoko hasn't got the capacity internally to conduct these forensic audits. So they would engage external auditors, experts to do it.
We have to wrap
but
up.
then again, Ms. Valerie Sawyer, like he said, has a right. And now, all the talk of witch hunting, that they leveled, what was the basis?
All right. Thank you. Thank you
We
very
are
much.
living in
We'll
a country
end
of
you
rule of law.
Yes.
If you feel aggrieved, you can go to court.
Yeah, so she will definitely have a day in court.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Lawyer Andrew Mercer is the Honourable Member of Parliament for Sekondi, and of course we're joined by the former Deputy Communications Minister, Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast Daily.